Good afternoon. It looks like the Pitt River and its tributaries will not be used as a source of electricity after all. The Environment Minister announcing today that Victoria will not carve into a provincial park so that a power line can be built. Pinecone-Burke Provincial Park and the Upper Pitt River are renowned for fish and wildlife. This river is home to all species of salmon, but it is also BC's most endangered, according to the Recreation Council of BC. Northwest Cascade Power wanted to build 7 small power plants on 8 tributaries of the Upper Pitt River. This was the response. More than 1,000 people converging on a school gym last night to oppose the project loudly.
Jane, this is a bloody crime that's being proposed.
Only in Canada, perhaps, would all of us sit politely and listen while you effectively plan to steal from us and our children.
Strong words, Keith Baldry.
Just that. Sorry. I was talking to my ear there.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying those are very strong words. Obviously, people did feel strongly about this. But what I want to know is this proposal dead now, or is there some other way that this private company could get power out of the Pitt River?
It's going to be very difficult now with the government refusing to change the park boundaries to allow those transmission lines to go in there. It's going to be very hard for the proponent to make a financial case because the proposal is hemmed in on 3 sides here by a provincial park. My understanding is the only other option was to dig a deep trench down Pitt Lake and put the transmission lines there. Very expensive. So the word I'm getting from the Environment Ministry is it's all, for intents and purposes, dead because the now cost added to it because they can't go through the park are simply prohibitive. And anybody who'd been listening to Barry Penner in the last few weeks should not be surprised by this. He was dropping broad hints because he always listed the problems with this project rather than the benefits of it, that you thought this was dead in the water anyways. And today's announcement comes as an anticlimactic announcement in many respects, but it did generate a fair amount of surprise given, I guess, how quickly it came after last night's meeting. And Barry Penner talked about that today along with Joe Foy from the Western Canada Wilderness Committee, who's concerned about other similar projects proposed around the province.
It's very clear that this project doesn't have a lot of public support. I haven't been able to find any First Nations support. Local governments have been lukewarm at best. And in addition, my own BC Park staff have concerns about this project that they told me about this morning. And so taking all those factors into consideration, I've made up my mind. I'm not going to be endorsing a power line through Pinecone-Burke Provincial Park.
Yes, Mr. Penner has been able to shut this one down, but that's only because 1,000 people showed up at the meeting. All over this province, from the Kootenays to out in Powell River, all on Vancouver Island, there are power projects, private power projects being proposed that are just as damaging and may not have the 1,000 people.
In fact, Keith, we've learned that more than 500 rivers and streams have actually been staked by private power producers. Now, how is that going to work?
Well, you know, the key word there is staked. It's similar to a mining claim. Just because there's someone claiming a river as potential rights for water licenses to generate power does not mean those go ahead. So the way it's going to work, sure, there's 500 or so, or almost 500, or a little more than 500 claims out there. But when you get down to it, then to get to the actual process of designing a project and then submitting that to the whole regulatory process to the point where you actually get a license, that's a completely different thing. So 500 may be the big number that some environmental groups want to trot out. The reality is, after everything is said and done, the number of run-of-the-river projects that will likely receive a green light in the years ahead is far less than that. A lot of energy analysts suggest it's going to be, you know, somewhere around 10 or so. But Joe Foy does make a good point that it's easy to focus the media attention on one like Upper Pitt River because it's so close to the Lower Mainland. It gets a lot of media coverage. Some of the more remote areas are going to be tougher to block potentially from community groups and organized groups because they're not going to have the same public interest, public support, media interest. That might make it easier for those projects to go through. But it's not going to be 500 folks, nowhere near that, likely more in the tens rather than anything like that.
Okay, thank you, Keith.